Hello, my name is Deborah Shalette Wilson,
I'm Kathy McCommon.
And I'm Ann Delfs.
and together we're the School of Soul. And today's video, we'd like to give you our take on the Christmas season. It means a lot of things to different people, but we'd like to share our perspective from the psychological stages of human growth and development.
What does the Christmas season mean developmentally? Well, for me, Christmas is about the birth of the Christ child within each of us. Our true spiritual identity, our wholeness, comes into our awareness. So if you think about Mary, the mother of Jesus, she was pregnant before the wedding, didn't look good in the culture of her day. So this birth of the Christ child in us occurs in the stage of woman, where we go from all these traumas in our lives to wanting to serve God in a way more passionately, more humbly than we've ever known. And we're often asked to do things that aren't PC, don't go along with our culture, upset our family, but we're willing in this developmental stage of woman.
And for me, Christmas is a time where I become more reflective, because for years and years, I got into the media circus that starts in July about getting ready for Christmas and, you know, making all these plans and spending more money than what I need to. And it's got to be a certain way and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. What does the birth of Christ mean to me? And what it means to me is the birth of myself as a spiritual being, and to grow and develop that aspect of myself. And so it's not that I don't decorate or do little things, but it's not my focus. My focus is to make this a pausing time, a quiet time, a time of reflection of how have I manifested that Christ consciousness in myself during the year, and what do I need to do to make sure that I continue that growth in the coming year.
You know, we look into our world during this time of the year, and we can easily identify those various stages of development. You know, so we may have either at some point in our own lives, or we may have someone in our family that is the organizer of Christmas. And say the family Christmas dinner. They may be very rigid about the time you come. They may be very rigid about the particular dish you bring and the ingredients that you use in that dish. They may be very rigid about where you sit at the table, what time it begins, what time it ends, what the conversation is, when the gifts are handed out, when it stops.
And if they're stuck in the mineral stage, if you don't do exactly what they say, they will punish you in some way.
Oh, yes, yes, because the mineral stage is very, very rigid.
And stuck in post-traumatic stress, recreating their traumas.
That's right, that's right. And then you think about the vegetable stage. So what would the vegetable stage look like? Of course, you know, you've got the real pretty plant that sits up here. And then you have just the opposite of pretty sitting down here. So somebody give us an example of what the vegetable stage would look like.
What comes to my mind is perfectionism. It's like it's all got to look just like the Norman Rockwall or whatever.
Home and Gardens
or whatever that is, you know, the how it looks. And so there's got to be these decorations and that decorations. And if this doesn't go right, it's like, oh my God, everything's ruined. It's like all or nothing. It's just, we've got to have this pretty picture, even if we're not talking to each other.
Yeah, we never speak to one another the whole year around. But then we come together and we're going to pretend that we all love each other.
Right. And then there's Uncle George over in the corner getting snookered and starts ranting and raving at everybody before the day is over, you know, making it uncomfortable, recreating his trauma and sharing it with the family, but it all looks great.
Yeah. The table is laid out perfectly.
Yes, the vegetable gets their identity from appearances, so everything has to be just so.
Yeah, and a lot of people, that puts a lot of stress on them to have that perfectionism look. It's kind of a myth, a fairy tale, magical thinking. It's got to look a certain way.
The vegetables.
And then the next stage would be the animal stage. So what would someone look like that was operating in the animal stage? Well, for one thing, they would be going, pet me, hug me. You know, they'd be your one that's just wanting continual hugs, and probably feed me.
Yeah. What's for dinner? What's for lunch?
She didn't give me a hug. What's her problem? You know?
And look at that casserole she brought. It doesn't even look that good.
Food.
I don't think I'm going to eat that one.
That animal is a very physically oriented stage of development.
That's right.
How about the child stage?
The child stage. Oh, I would think that the child stage, because empathy is being developed at the child stage. The child is very feeling. If someone comes in and they're angry or they're tearful, in the child stage, that child stage is going to feel those feelings.
Let's talk about it. Over the dinner table? Has trouble with it.
You need a hug. I think you need a hug.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Let's get the animal over here for that one. Let's see, what else would be the child stage? Probably they would be wanting to go down to the local shelter and bring someone home for dinner that's homeless. You know, here, Mom, we have a new person.
Yeah, or buy presents for kids at the shelter, the foster care, you know.
Yeah.
Or for foster care children, you know, or take socks to the elderly in the nursing homes to keep their feet warm.
Everyone, this is Samson, and this is Deborah's therapy cat. And he is very involved with anyone that's in the room, particularly Deborah.
And very well representing the animal stage of development.
Yes.
Pet me, pet me.
And then back to the stage of woman, which is the stage we're in when the Christ child is born in our consciousness. But in this increased light in our lives and our consciousness that comes from the Christ child, we also become aware of the depth of darkness in our fellow man, as well as within ourselves. So it's a stage of development where we give birth to the most traumatized parts of ourselves, the parts that are stuck in the mineral and vegetable stages. And it can be devastating to realize just how much people have hurt us and how much harm we've done in recreation of this trauma. So it's a birth of joy of the Christ child, and also can be a birth of some agonizing experiences. But it's that Christ child, that joy, that beauty that surrounds us, that gets us through these deepest, darkest parts of ourselves, so we can be clear of all that baggage we've been carrying around.
Yeah, and that darkness is something we need to own.
Yes.
We need to own it, and compassionately, but we still need to own it. And the more that we can own those dark parts of ourselves and bring light to them, then the more we can heal them and learn and grow and develop those places.
In that particular woman's stage, when we can go in and we can look at the darkness that lies within us and embrace it for the lessons that it's taught us, it allows us to be with others who have this darkness in themselves, and maybe they're not able to be with that yet. We can hold a space for them, a space so that they can grow through that in a loving, nurturing environment. that only that woman stage can provide, not only for ourselves, for others, for humanity, for the globe. But that particular stage comes with responsibilities also. It's not just
love does not always appear as love, the stroking, feel good kind of love. That love can be a very tough love.
and you look at Christ, his life. He had to have a lot of tough love, whether he was turning over the tables in the temple, or whether he was healing the woman who touched the hem of his skirt that was considered unclean. He had to go outside of the societal norms in order to hold that energy of the Christ consciousness.
Yeah, and part of the Christ consciousness is about honesty, and you can be honest with people and hold them accountable, and that's part of what we need to do with each other to help us learn and grow. And that's not a comfortable thing to do. But to me, that is a loving thing to do, because I see love as a verb, and part of that is taking action, to hold people accountable for their behavior, and and calling them out on things, bringing things to their attention that may not be in their awareness because of their traumas. And sometimes just being that voice to say, are you aware that this is the impact of what your behavior is on other people? Sometimes that does wake them up. Sometimes it doesn't, but it's still part of what you're saying is a responsibility that we have to as a loving presence in the world, to do the tough stuff too.
That's true. And I think when we're operating in the lower developmental stages, if we attempt to do that and we haven't done our own inner work, we will stand in a place of judgment because we're judging ourselves as much as the other person. But when we're in that Christ consciousness, there is no judgment. Christ didn't stand in harsh judgment. He revealed to the people how they were being, how they were acting, what their almost certain future was if they didn't change their path. But he didn't sit there and say, you're a bad person. No, your actions are going to create this. Look inside. What's going on inside of you that would promote this behavior? And so being in a non-judgmental place is important in order for people to feel secure enough to look inside and not feel threatened.
And not judge ourselves. Because the reason why we have so many separated off soul parts is because we've judged them harshly.
Yes,
that's correct.
And that's part of embracing them. When you embrace them, you have to let go of the judgment in order to do that, and just recognize that they're parts of who you are, but they're not your total identity. That there's so much more to who we are than what we've been conditioned to believe. That to me, that's such a hope for humanity, that we have so much waking up that we can do that can transform our traumas into triumphs and help us live a whole different way of life that is more nurturing and creative and joyful, and we can compassionate, find solutions for our problems instead of, trauma keeps us stuck in our problems instead of allowing us to open our eyes to see the solution that may be sitting right next to us.
And that Christ child in us shows us the solutions.
Exactly.
As well as the problems.
Yes.
That's right.
Well, we hope you enjoy this holiday season and consider where you're at in developing the Christ consciousness within you. And we at the School of Soul are here to help in any way that we can and to serve.
And have a wonderful Christ season.
Yes.
Christmas.
Bye. Bye.